Hey everyone, today we are at Placer Big Tree Grove. This is off of Mosquito Ridge Road, heading out towards French Meadows Reservoir in southern Placer County. And yeah, we're going to talk about some of the plants we see here today. Starting with this one right here, this is Notholithocarpus densiflora, subspecies Echinoides. This is the bush tan oak. So tan oak trees on the coast and kind of near the Bullard's Bar complex in Yuba County are in a tree form, but more common in this area is this bush form tan oak, which you can see here. Doesn't get more than 8-10 feet tall, and yeah, these are the distinctive acorns of the tan oak with these little fringed tubercule. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Yeah, they have little fringes there, and these are the flowers just forming. And let's see, right next to it we have a plant in the heath family. This is Camophila umbulatum. Those beautiful little flowers there. And this is something we noticed on the way in, which is we have a Cuscuta species. This is known as a dodder. It's a parasitic species. That's this little vining thing right here. It's in the morning glory family, and it's growing here on Ceanothus prostratus, the Mahalamat Ceanothus, and doesn't have any flowers yet, but yeah, it just grows on other plants for support and taps into their vascular systems and steals its nutrients from other plants, not able to make any on its own. That's a neat little thing, and there's a whole bunch of different species of dodders in California. Most of them are native. There's a few non-natives, and you know, they evolved here, and they are very important to the ecosystem. So I know a lot of people see a dodder and they think, oh, I need to rip this out, I need to get rid of it, but really, for the most part, you can leave them be. They're really important nectar plants for a lot of wildlife and produce little flowers on those vines eventually. And yeah, so that's one of the Cuscutas. I wish I knew what species it was. All right, so the next plant we are going to talk about is this guy right here. This is Pyrola picta. This is the white-veined wintergreen. It's also in the heath family. A lot of the heath family plants like this acidic soil where all the pine needles are making the soil acidic. And so yeah, it's got these evergreen leaves with the white veins, giving it its name. And here are the flowers. There's just only one flower open right now. Take a look at that. Yeah, we have a couple of different species of Pyrola. One of them has no leaves whatsoever. That's Pyrola aphylla, the leafless Pyrola. There's also one called the One-Sided Wintergreen, where all the flowers are borne on just a single side of the flowering stalk there. And the bog wintergreen, which is higher elevations and kind of wet places, and the flowers have a little bit of a reddish tint to them. So yeah, Pyrola picta. There's another little one that is not flowering yet. Pyrola picta, white-veined wintergreen. And this one is a beautiful monocot plant. It's a little towards the end of its life right now. This is Prosardes hookeri. This is Hooker's fairy bells. And it kind of looks like a false Solomon seal, but you can see it's got multiple branches coming off the main stem. And then underneath the tips of the branches here, it will have two little bell-shaped flowers where the fairy bells comes from, but this one is already in fruit. And you can see it's actually aborted one of its flowers there, so it's only got one fruit. But you do have to look underneath the plant in order to tell which one this is. Oh, and look, here's another wintergreen with a lot more flowers. Take a look at that. But yeah, one of the monocots. So it's got parallel veins right here. It's actually more closely related to grasses than some of the dicots. And monocot comes from the fact that when it germinates, it has one cotyledon, monocot, as opposed to having two dicot. So that's the etymology behind that term right there. So we didn't have to go far to find the leafless wintergreen. See, there's no leaves there at the bottom, just rising right out of the duff, has no green whatsoever. Flowers aren't quite open, but this one is one of the mycoheterotrophs, so it can't make any of its own food. It just relies on soil fungi there. You know, that's very common in the heath family, and the leafless wintergreen is no exception. This is Pyrola aphylla, phylla meaning leaf, aphylla meaning no leaves, so leafless. So we are down in, this primarily conifer forest. There's a few, the only other trees pretty much are these dogwoods over there, those broadleafs in the distance. And so we're walking past lots of different kinds of pine cone, including this one right here, the longest pine cone in the world. This is the pine cone of the sugar pine. That is Pinus lambertiana. And yeah, just an enormous, enormous pine cone. And yeah, you don't want to get one of these to land on your head, but yeah, the seeds inside are edible and slightly sweet, which is where sugar pine comes from. And let's see, can we see sugar pine in the distance? You're not going to be able to make it out, but it's that branchy one kind of in the middle of the screen right there. Those long branches, short needles. I believe they have 5 needles per fascicle, and that's like a fascicle is a bunch of needles. Let's see, what other kind of cones do we have around here? Oh, look at that. That is one of the spotted coral root, except it is done flowering and it is in fruit. So that's what the fruits of the coral root looks like. One of our native orchids. And so yeah, here we have another pine cone. This one, you'll notice, has these little, they call them mouse tails, right? Because it kind of looks like a mouse with the 2 back legs and the tail sticking out. And so that's indicative that this is Pseudotsuga menziesii, or Douglas fir. Very common all up and down the west coast. But that's how you can tell you're standing underneath a Doug fir, is you find a pine cone with those little bracts in between these mouse-shaped bracts, in between these rounded bracts. How about that? Douglas fir. Okay, here we have a real treat. This is the only white lily in California, well, at least in the Sierras. This is Washington lily. It's Lilium washingtonianum. And yeah, it's got the typical whorled leaves. These are called whorls of the lily family. And it grows, it can be even as high as 6 feet tall. And these white flowers, and they're pretty beat up at this point. But still, beautiful nonetheless. Oh, you can see, there's the ovary down there, that green part, which is attached to the stigma. I did not mean to knock all those petals off, but they just kind of fell off. But yeah, this one's probably done flowering anyway and is about to make its fruit for the year. So yeah, Washington lily. Pretty cool to see that down here. Oh, and I should point out this guy right here, also with a kind of a whorled leaf, but in the Ericaceous family. This is Rhododendron occidentale. This is Western Azalea. It has these beautiful white flowers on it when it is in bloom, and that smell absolutely amazing. I highly, highly recommend this one for your garden. If you like to put, say, a lilac outside of your door, so it's the first thing you smell when you walk out in the morning, this is a great native replacement for that same exact purpose. It just smells amazing. Oftentimes you will smell this plant before you even see it. So yeah, rhododendron. So azaleas, yeah, azaleas are in the genus rhododendron, just like rhododendrons. But they're both in the heath family. Grows in wet places. This one can even tolerate growing in some of our diggins, like where areas that have been denuded by hydraulic mining. So really interesting plant. Likes these acidic areas as well. So forget all about those sugar pines and those big Doug firs. This is the reason why they call this big tree grove. It is because this is the northernmost natural stand of Sequoiadendron giganteum, which is known as the Giant Sequoia. And so look at this tree fall right here. And the tree, in diameter is easily 12 feet tall. Could you imagine the sound that this thing made when it crashed down onto the forest floor? In any case, yeah, these are the largest trees in the world by volume. And we are lucky in Placer County to have the northernmost stand. And, it might not be as impressive as some of the ones that are further south, which have a lot more trees and, even bigger than these ones. But this one's local, so we'll take what we can get. So I found this young giant sequoia, and so I just wanted to use it as an opportunity to show the form of the needles there. So you can see they're very sharp, kind of bluish greenish, yeah, just wanted to, I'm not going to be able to reach the top of one of the adult giant sequoia, so this gives you an opportunity to see what the sequoia needles look like. And here, I'll show you. This is all this plant is. pretty small guy, maybe 3 feet tall. There's some of the developing bark on there. It's pretty nice. Then eventually, becomes a lot more pine bark-like. All right, here are some of those beautiful Western Azalea flowers. Look how exerted those floral parts are. The stamen and the pistil there are just sticking way out of the flower. It's got this nice little white flower tube, a little bit of yellow on the inside there, and just, I can just smell it, standing back from the plant a little bit. They are just gorgeous, gorgeous native plants. Once again, Rhododendron occidentale, our Western Azalea. All right, so we got another one of our native lilies. Check that out. It's got whorled leaves, just the same, but these flowers are much smaller, and they are reddish orange, and notice they are pointing up. That points to the fact that this is Lilium parvum, the Sierra tiger lily. It is the only lily that we have where the flowers point up, and you'll notice, like other members in the lily family, it has flower parts in multiples of 3s. These are actually petals and sepals. So sepals subtend or are attached below the petals, but they look exactly the same, giving it the appearance that it has 6 petals actually. Very neat plant. First one I'm seeing this year. So very happy to see it. 2 species of lilies, who'd have thought? And here is one of our native Vacciniums. And so Vaccinium is a genus that contains the blueberry. This is also the genus of huckleberries, Vaccinium, in the blueberry family, Ericaceae. And so you'll notice these fruits that are developing, they have, it's called a calyx ring. And so it's that ring around the outside. And that points to the fact that this is Vaccinium shastense, excuse me. And you'll notice it has these sort of angled green stems. And but the fruit really give it away and separate it from the red huckleberry. Which is another Vaccinium, also has the green stems, but the fruits are red, and they lack that ring. So, very cool, very interesting suite of ericaceous plants in this area. All right, and so yet another ericaceous plant. This is Gaultheria ovadifolium. This is the oval-leafed wintergreen, and you can see it's kind of got this like zigzag pattern. And it's the same genus. If you've ever been on the coast and seen salal, it's that same exact genus. It has these nice little bell-shaped flowers, beautiful little fruit. I'm not seeing any flowers or fruit on this patch right here, but I thought I'd show it because the theme of this seems to be ericaceous plants, Well, underneath these giant sequoias, the ericaceous plants are just going nuts. And, oh, look at that. We have a native orchid. This is the rattlesnake plantain. We've talked about this on previous videos. White venation, not flowering quite yet. An evergreen native orchid. Beautiful one to find here. But yeah, just hiding out underneath these other plants. All right, so here we go. Here is a standing giant sequoia. I mean, we're talking, it is so big. I'm almost falling over just trying to get this shot right now, but I mean, it must be 200 feet tall or something like that. Easily 10 feet wide. The namesake here of the Placer Big Tree Grove. Standing like giants in this little protected canyon here. I highly, highly recommend, if you get a chance, to come out here and make the drive. It's not terrible. It's maybe 45 minutes, an hour outside of Auburn, and just come spend some time with these trees because it'll really humble you. So yeah, I just wanted to give a closer impression of some of the living bark. You can see why this is closely related to the redwoods, and look, even burnt, but it's so big that it survived the burning. These are just absolutely awesome trees. All right, well, we have a couple little wildflowers to talk about. This little 5-petaled guy right here. This is Cologia gallioides, I believe that's how you pronounce it. But what you want to look at is those 5 petals on a tube, and then check out this ovary down here. See that hairy ovary below the flower, that little round bit? That is diagnostic for this plant, and it is in Rubiaceae, which puts it as a relative of the coffee plant. So I may have talked about this one on a previous video. I can't remember right now, but it's it never hurts going over it again. Consider it a review if you watched the old video. And over here, we have a plant called Draperia stylissa. This is violet Draperia. It's in the borage family, and you know, it's related to things like there's a pine cone falling out of a tree. I'm just gonna make sure I'm safe. Uh, um, but yeah, so this one is in the borage family. It has this kind of scorpioid inflorescence, kind of like Phacelias or Yerba Santa. Here, this is a better example of that scorpioid. See, scorpioid, like a scorpion's tail, right? And a lot of these plants in the borage family, they're very hairy, very stiff hairy. And this one is what's known as a monotypic species. So it is the only species in its genus, Draperia. Really interesting plant. Check out the leaf margins. They kind of have like a silver coloration to them, right? Yeah, I just thought it would be neat to point out some of the tiny small wildflowers which have taken advantage of the fact that this giant sequoia has fallen down and it's opened up the canopy and allowed some light to reach the forest floor. All right, well, I wanted to get probably the best shot I could get of one of the giant sequoias at a distance. That's that like mounded tree there. You know, to give you an idea for the full shape of the tree. It's kind of hard to do because the canopy is so thick here, but you know, that's all we're gonna have for today. It's a pretty short trail, so likewise, we're gonna have a short video. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it. And big trees are pretty darn cool. Come on down to Big Tree Grove in Placer County. Thanks for watching, everyone.